Hey there, it's Derek from Pacific Coast Auto, and we're looking at a 2006 Subaru Impreza WRX STI. This is the GDB in the final iteration with the Hawkeye front face. It's a 2-liter turbocharged engine that puts out 280 horsepower, probably a little bit more. Having driven them, they feel faster than the GC8s. Okay. I think in the USA you guys got these with the turbo, but the 2.5 liter engine that isn't as good as the 2 liter EJ20 turbocharged engine. That might be up for debate. Let me know in the comments if that's what you think. These engines, from what I've seen, are good. This one has 160,000 kilometers on it. I'm going to go over the auction inspection sheet in a second. And from what I've seen of this generation, they hold their value really well. And they hold their condition really well. Exterior, as long as you don't get too many door dings in them, and the paint is okay. Things hold together really well. Interior is about the same. Engine-wise is the same. Mechanically, they've been good. People talk about Subaru head gaskets failing. You know, we've sold thousands of vehicles and seen tens or hundreds of thousands of auction sheets. I haven't really seen lots of Imprezas with white smoke, so this might be an only outside of Japan kind of thing. Anyways, I checked the coolant. Check it over here, even though there's another cap over here. And check the oil. Both of those appear to be okay. We have the original strut tower brace, original large size top mount intercooler, fed by an aftermarket ducting unit there. Okay, we have Tane adjustable suspension there with adjustable pillow upper mounts if you wanted that. And I think that's all for the aftermarket parts. So pretty original. Timing belt has been changed in 2015. And let's shut the engine off and then close the hood. Oh, boost gauge is aftermarket. Okay, I think that this is about the condition that we see at 160,000 kilometers. And I think it's good for people to know that. A lot of people email and they say, oh, I want to get a low mileage version of the car. And there are plenty of low mileage cars in Japan, but then the price goes up a lot the lower mileage that you get. You can still get really good cars at a medium or higher mileage that you can be pretty happy with. There will be a few things here and there, but I don't know, it can be thousands of dollars more as you get to lower mileage. Let's have a translation of the auction inspection sheet, then we'll do a once around, then I'll point out any damages and I'll go to the interior as well. So it's a 2006 Impreza STI, 2000cc of course, 6-speed manual in the STI, 5-speed manual in the WRX. The WRX is a GDA where this is a GDB. The auction gave this a grade of 3.5 with an interior B. I'd say that that's pretty accurate. Alloy wheels, power steering, power windows, airbag. No sales points or notes from the seller. He didn't really have much to say. Okay. 158,097, that is authentic mileage on it. Report here, interior 1 part dirty. It's really not that dirty at all. Aftermarket suspension or lowered car. Underside surface rust. Wheel scratched, very small scratches. A2 on the front bumper and A1 on the hood there. The A1 on the hood might be a little bit too minor of a rating. I would consider that maybe an A1.5 if you were allowed to do that. And then the whole body, as you can see, really good other than that. But there are two cracks in the windshield. You can see 1, 2, XX. I'll show you those now. First one here, right there. Okay. And the second one, right here. Okay. So windshield crack, these ones are kind of on the minor side. Usually they'll be 1 centimeter or lower unless it's otherwise stated. If it's bigger than that, they'll typically draw where it is on here. Okay, and cracked windshield will typically lower the auction cost a little bit. Not an awful lot, but a little bit. Okay, so let's do the once around. I'm a big fan of these. Any 4-wheel drive turbocharged cars in the 90s / 2000s are good cars. And I don't know, they feel really 90s or 2000s-ish. Nowadays the turbo cars like the Civic Type R, they're fast cars and they're fun, but they're not as fun. And I think part of the reason is because these older cars have less power than the newer ones. And, you know, slightly less rigid chassis. And, you know, there are certain things that on a technical level make the car a worse car. but it makes it more fun to drive. Like for anyone who's ever driven an 8.6, they're kind of terrible cars by today's standards. They're very slow at like 100 horsepower, 120 horsepower, and the chassis flops all over the place and it rattles inside, but they're incredibly fun to drive. I think the one car that nowadays gets it right is the Miata, because it's still down on power, but really not so much. You know, it's slower than an S2000, but not by a whole lot. And a good chassis. It's really fun to drive an underpowered car like that. This one, on the other hand, is a lot more powerful than the Miata, just to begin with. And the four-wheel drive gives you a lot of grip out of the corners, which is fun to play around with. So let's look at damages, or various other smaller notes. When you look inside here, you can see the fins of that aftermarket deflector plate. Maybe you can't. There you go. So it diverts the air into it more efficiently. I don't know if it's BS or not, but it is an aftermarket part. Kind of cool. The grille here, aside from looking like a whale that wants to fly, has peeling paint here, here, and here. The whole front bumper, it has scattered rock chips on it. It's actually kind of bad. I would recommend getting it repainted. Now the auction inspection sheet said A2 on the front bumper. That A2 is like right here. That doesn't stand out as much as the rock chips do. And then more rock chips in this area. And the scratches on the hood, see here. To me, that looks more like A2. And there's also rock chips on the hood, plenty of them. And some deteriorating paint. Now that's really the worst of the car. Everything else looks good. You go down side panels, everything is nice and good. I did mention earlier that unless the body has dents in it, it's probably going to be pretty good. Subarus tend to dent really easily. I'd show you, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to on this car. So technically I won't show you. I think this generation got better than the GC8 or the Legacies of past, but it's still pretty prone to denting. And then the paint, might be a bit hard to see, but it is a pearlescent paint. They call it WR blue. That's the original tail light and original exhaust. And somebody in the comments tell me about this badge, because I've seen that on older Subarus. Kind of like a late 80s, early 90s kind of thing. The flying rabbit. You see them on cars here every once in a while, but they're still a pretty rare badge. And then Zero Sports there is the name of that air deflector piece, that aluminum sheet. Back bumper is good. Tabletop spoiler, so that you'll always have a place to have lunch, which is extra important during the pandemic, isn't it? And then extra wind deflector, and I love that they put this onto the car. I love it. Catch that air that's coming over the hood and allow it to sneak underneath that spoiler. The idea is get that wind under the spoiler going as fast as possible, and that deflector actually does that. You know, they need pieces like this on the original cars if you want to have them on the rally cars too. So, well, I don't actually know all the rules for rally, but there are, you know, homologations typically are done to cars in order for them to be race cars. Let's open up and go inside. We have frameless windows. It's an Impreza thing. I don't know if they still do, but all the earlier ones do. Intercooler water spray. How cool is that? I'm getting ahead of myself. Door cards. They come in this blue and black two-tone that kind of matches the seats. It's a good look. These seats can usually take a beating. If it is a hefty person, they tend to get pilled at the bottom, but the bolsters don't tend to sag on these like plenty of other cars do. Mike! Hello. Hi, Mike! Out of the corner of my eye, I thought it was just some random person going into our lot. It happens sometimes. Just having a look around. Right? So these bolsters here, nice and tall, typically don't collapse like they do in a lot of cars. Floor mats, maybe a bit on the dirty side. Steering wheel. The touching parts of the steering wheel are all really good. There are some odd scratches at the top. Okay, the aftermarket boost gauge is cool, but then you lose ability to see your third gauge in there. Oh, and the gauges do a cool dance when you turn them on. Oh, and maybe somebody in the comments knows about this because I definitely don't. See that flashing fuel light? There's fuel in it. The driver put in 10 liters. It's still flashing. I don't know what it is. Oh, and you can see a bit of the pilling here that I was talking about. It's just starting. There are ways to remove it, but be careful because if you make a mistake, you get a hole in your seat. Okay, the intercooler water spray, the idea is that you get a windshield washer nozzle that's like this that sprays into the intercooler to suck some of that heat out of it. And then you can set that to auto. And I think it has to do with like how hot the engine is or something, maybe. I don't know. And then you can press the button yourself if you wanted to. I'd also be interested to know how that water spray decides when to spray. And pardon me for being sniffly. Allergies. Oh, check this out. Look, focus on my hand. This is cool. This is definitely worth seeing. Come on, camera. Okay, now look. Hi, I'm watching you drive. Oh, your fast driving is impressing me. Yeah, aftermarket shift knob on there. 6-speed manual. The big Brembo brakes, you probably saw those. You can control your center differential in this, which was previously only an option on the RA version. Same thing goes with the intercooler water spray. Condition-wise, we got a bit of paint wear here, and I've seen that a lot on these. And then a couple of scratches here. That's not something that is not really prone to scratching, but mosquito's gonna eat me. Interior doesn't smell like cigarettes. If you look inside here, it has been smoked in. Has an aftermarket head unit there. The AC is not cold. Gonna have to check that out for leaks and then refill it. Okay, nice clean carpet on the passenger side there. I love the trunks of these cars. I love the, like nowadays, there are a lot of hatchbacks, crossovers, that sort of thing. The 3-box is nice. I love the look of a 3-box. And when you get a trunk this big, you're not really forfeiting a lot of trunk space by going with the hatch. Or by going with this over the hatch, I mean. Okay, back seats, reasonable size. This is just a good size vehicle, I would say. Adults can fit in here, which is more than you can say out of most like Japanese cars from 70s and 80s. 90s, they started to get a little bit better. Okay, I don't have much else to say about this one. It's Mike checking it out. Mike also drives a Subaru. We recorded a video on the day that he got his car like 3 years ago, but we never posted it. It was kind of funny. Can you pose next to it?
Wait, Yankee style.
That's cool. Okay, well, hope you enjoy Mike Yankee style. Yankee is a Japanese word, by the way, not like he's an American. And yeah, it does look good, doesn't it? That's all for now. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.